Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that's framed as much more than just a romance. It's presented as a kind of divine testimony. We're going to break down the powerful themes, the really unique structure, and the intense faith at the very core of the novel, The Quiet Between Us.
Right from the get-go, the book tells you this isn't your typical love story. The subtitle frames the whole romance as being whispered into existence by a higher power, specifically Yahuwah, which is a name for God from some Hebrew traditions. This tells us right away that faith isn't just in the background here. It is the engine driving this entire story.
So this is the big question that kicks everything off. You've got these two people who are both totally isolated by some pretty deep past traumas. The stage is set for a connection that, on the surface, just seems absolutely impossible.
Okay, so our story starts in Queens, New York, where we meet two people who are just profoundly wounded. They're living these quiet, totally separate lives, and each one of them is hiding from the world in their own way.
First up, we have Claudia Reid. Her little tea shop? It's way more than just a business. It's like a fortress she's built to keep the world out. It's her sanctuary, a place of routine and quiet, where she can finally feel safe and, maybe most importantly, completely unseen. Those long sleeves she always wears are a constant, silent reminder of a painful history she never, ever talks about. And then, Roman West walks into her sanctuary. This guy is an incredibly imposing figure. He's a 56-year-old NYPD detective, and his reputation totally precedes him. He's known for being cold, ruthless, and he's followed by these persistent rumors that he's a racist.
Their first meeting is just filled with this wonderful, quiet tension. Roman, who seriously looks like a walking thunderstorm, completely throws Claudia for a loop by ordering chamomile tea. It's such a small, quiet little moment, but it's the very first crack we see in that tough-as-nails exterior of his.
So how in the world do you get inside the heads of two people who are so guarded, so closed off? Well, the novel uses this really clever device to show us their connection building, their private, personal journal entries.
And this is just brilliant, because it shows us their mirrored perspectives. Through her journal, we find out that Claudia feels truly seen for what feels like the first time in decades. Not judged, not measured, just seen. And at the same time, Roman's journal reveals he is completely captivated by her, drawn to this mystery that he just can't shake.
And these entries, they go even deeper, right to their core vulnerabilities. Claudia is just longing to be loved for who she is, not as some kind of project that needs to be fixed. And Roman, he's terrified of being just another man who hurts her. He actually wants to be a part of her healing. And this is so important. They both see this connection as a possible path to healing for both of them.
This thought from Roman really defines their entire courtship. It is deliberately slow, it's almost reverent. The focus is completely on building trust and a spiritual bond first. As Roman's thoughts here show, physical intimacy isn't just an act for them. It's framed as a sacred promise, a vow.
But of course, just as their quiet, sacred connection really starts to become solid, the story takes a huge dramatic turn. The outside world, with all of its noise and judgment, just comes crashing in, threatening to tear the whole thing apart.
The story just starts piling on the pressure with this rapid-fire series of crises. First, Roman's ex-wife Beth shows up out of nowhere. Then, Roman gets involved in a fatal police shooting which, as you can imagine, sparks a media firestorm. Beth totally weaponizes this, launching a public attack against him, and it all comes to a head when she ambushes his proposal to Claudia.
And this is where it all explodes. In what should have been their most private, intimate moment, Beth bursts in with reporters and publicly frames Roman not just as a cheater, but as a racist killer, pulling a PR stunt. It is a brutal, perfectly calculated accusation.
But in this make-or-break moment, Claudia does not back down. She makes this incredibly powerful public declaration of her faith, both in a divine judgment that she believes is much higher than the media's, and in Roman himself. And right there, in front of all the cameras, she says yes.
So the final act of the story moves to resolve all of these intense conflicts, and it does it through events that the narrative frames explicitly as divine intervention and grace.
The story's main antagonist, Beth, she's taken out of the picture in an absolutely shocking way. While she's holding a press conference to denounce Roman, she is shot and killed by an unknown attacker.
So how do our main characters process this incredibly violent event? Well, Claudia's journal entry tells us everything.
They don't see Beth's death as some random tragedy. No, they interpret it as a direct act of divine justice and protection, a clear sign that their love is sacred and anointed.
After that climax, the story quickly ties up all the loose ends. Roman and Claudia have a small, quiet wedding, they sell the tea shop, and they leave the chaos of the city behind for a peaceful new life out on Long Island. And finally, their union is blessed with a child.
And that pregnancy is presented as the ultimate proof of their blessed union. Because, and get this, Claudia is 57 years old. So within the world of this story, this isn't just a surprise pregnancy. It's positioned as an actual divine miracle, a biological impossibility made possible only through their faith.
Okay, so to really, truly grasp this story, it's so important to see how the author herself frames it for the reader. This isn't just subtext. She tells you exactly how you're supposed to interpret this novel. Right in the preface, the author literally calls the story a testimony. She makes it crystal clear that even though Roman and Claudia are fictional characters, their journey is meant to represent a real-world truth about the power of faith to heal.
And then the book ends with this striking all-caps declaration. It leaves the reader with a final, completely unambiguous message. This story isn't just presented as being inspired by the divine, but as having been directly authored by it. It's a really fascinating final thought that challenges the very idea of where inspiration ends and, well, where authorship begins.